I was only 9 years old. I had no idea what was happening to my mother, nor did I know the horror that was to come. But now, I am older and more mature, so I know exactly what was really going on with her body. Kidney failure. I can't remember how old she was at the time, but it was severe enough for her to have a stroke and leave me for good. My mother, you could say, was a very stubborn 40-year-old lady, but she went out of her way to always take care of us, even during her dialysis. My mother was always very scared of doctors, but she knew if she wanted to live, she would have to go through dialysis to watch us grow old and successful. All I wanted to do was help her, but I had to wait until I was 18 before I could donate my kidneys. I still remember the exact date, time, and events that happened before my world crumbled. October 16th, 3 a.m. was where it all began with my mom. I was woken to the sounds of her dialysis machine and noticed that she wasn't at her bed like she usually would be. I saw the bathroom light was on, so I went there to check. There she was, my mother on the ground, half naked, laying on her stomach. Her dark brown, gray-washed hair was covering her lifeless back. I reached over to look closer and noticed there was foam on her mouth, but my stupid 9-year-old self thought she was just sleeping. I sat next to her, hoping she would wake up. I sat for 10 minutes, helplessly calling her name a couple of times. No response. I then began to suspect that something was wrong and she was definitely not sleeping. Fear jolted through my body, then panic. I remember my mother and father had a fight that night, so my father went to the living room to sleep. I ran to my father, screaming, "Dad, I think something's wrong with Mom. She's on the bathroom floor and won't wake up." My dad quickly jolted up and ran to the bathroom where my mother's lifeless body lay. My dad tried calling for my mom. She wouldn't wake up, no matter how hard he cried. I went to wake up my sisters, saying, "Wake up, there's something wrong with Mom." They got up and went to check as I followed behind them. We quickly called the ambulance. At this point, I started to process what was really going on and just how serious it was. I cried and cried as they carried my mom to the stretcher. The paramedic said to me, "Your mom will be okay, don't you worry." And for that slight moment, a tinge of hope filled me. I wanted to go with her so badly, but they wouldn't allow me because I was too young. I watched as my older sister hopped on instead. I still remember that night. I was in the car with my brother, other sister, and father. We drove right behind the ambulance, making sure we were always right behind her. When we got to the hospital, we sat in the emergency room lobby, waiting for the doctors to come out to tell us what really happened to my mother. After 30 long minutes of waiting, they finally came out and said, "She had a stroke. If you had brought her in earlier, she would have been fine and been treated here. But because of the severity of her condition, we would have to transfer her to a bigger hospital to be treated." By this time, it was already 7 a.m. Each minute was passing by in slow motion. I walked outside with my family and watched as she was placed into a helicopter to be transferred to another hospital. At this point, I was hysterical, bawling my eyes out because I was so scared and worried. I didn't want to leave. I wanted to go with her, but I couldn't. We drove about an hour to the new hospital where she was transferred, and there she was, laying in the ICU where she would stay for the next few days. My family and I were told to wait in a tiny room, which forced us to all be cramped together. We waited for what felt like forever before the doctors came in to speak with us. They explained that my mother was on life support due to the damage that had been done to her brain, and suggested that we make the hard decision of letting her go. What else could we do but agree? The worst part is, I never cried until the final hours. It had finally hit me that I was losing my mother forever, never hearing her voice, and never walking out that hospital with her. The day had come. October 18th, 2011 was the day I said goodbye. I remember everyone in her room in the ICU. I was sitting by her bed, holding onto her hand, crying uncontrollably. I put her hand on my cheeks just to feel her touch one last time. Then the doctors finally came in, and I watched them turn off the oxygen machine. I took my eyes off of it and looked at my mom as she was taking her final breath. I remember seeing her last tear falling down her cheeks, passing her ears, and I cried even harder. I was hoping for a miracle to happen, like her waking up again after the oxygen was shut off, or that she would wake up and grab my hand once more, but no, it didn't happen. She was gone. 2 weeks later, on October 31st, 2011, we attended her funeral and buried her. I cried so much. I had barely slept and I'd lost a bit of weight. I remember coming home and crying myself to sleep. I even tried to go trick-or-treating to lift my mood, but it didn't work. Every now and then, I have this guilt inside of me. I was the first one that found my mother that day, laying on the ground. I kept thinking about what the doctor said. She would have been fine if she was brought in earlier. I should have called, but I sat down next to her instead, thinking she was sleeping? I must have been out of my mind. Everyone tells me it was never my fault, but deep down, I still believe it is. Losing a parent is something so unexpected. No matter how much you've prepared, you will remember every minute and every second of it, from the moment your parent gets sick to when they take their final breath. Please, please, go to your parents if they are still there and hug them. Tell them that you love them because I didn't get that chance.